Hey folks, thanks for joining me. I'm Jerry Boykin, and I appreciate you joining us on Facebook Live this afternoon. I want to talk really about two things. One is the shooting by Stephen Paddock 2 days ago in Las Vegas. We're all familiar with the story. We know that he killed 59 people, wounded another 527, and ultimately took his own life. And of the 59 dead, he is not included in that. He is the 60th death associated with this. He had, apparently in his room, he had 26 weapons of various designs. At least, I think about a dozen of them would fire automatic, not just semi-automatic as what is the standard for a weapon that is sold in a gun store. And there's still a lot we don't know, and I think that we're going to this is going to drag out for quite a while, and there's going to be a lot of questions about who this guy was, what motivated him, and how he actually was able to get all these weapons into his hotel room, as well as some precursors for explosives that he also had and was found. And then he had more weapons at his home, and as we all know, I think his girlfriend was brought back from the Philippines today, and she's being questioned right now to try and figure out what she can tell us about his motives and what he was up to here. Now that said, this is a terrible tragedy. This is the worst shooting in American history. I mean, this is incredible. It's incredible that we're having this kind of thing in our society today. And I am deeply sorrowful for the families of those that were injured and those that were killed. God bless them. I wish I could do something for them, and I am. I'm praying for them. That said, one of the things that really bothers me about this shooting is how quickly the liberals in this country, particularly those in our Congress, immediately jumped on it to go after our guns again. They immediately jumped on this and started essentially saying that were it not for conservative lawmakers and their unwillingness to restrict our gun ownership, that this would not have happened. You've got to be kidding me. Let me say this. If those liberal lawmakers really want to have an impact on the killing of people in this country, take your backside to Chicago. You want to talk about conservatives being responsible for these deaths? Why don't you go to Chicago, which, by the way, for decades has been under the control of liberals? Do you know that 57 people were killed in Chicago last month, September? 57. And over 300 were wounded in shootings in Chicago. And there are similar statistics in Los Angeles and New York, and they're all under the leadership of liberals. So don't blame conservatives and don't blame their unwillingness to restrict our gun owner rights, which are guaranteed by our Constitution, and think that people aren't going to pay attention to what you're saying right now. And in paying attention to what you're saying, I hope they will go to the ballot box and vote your backside out of office. This is enough. I'm tired of this. Every time something happens, instead of recognizing that you've got a far bigger problem, you've got a much bigger problem, and that is the destruction, the deterioration of our inner cities and the killing that's going on in those cities where innocent bystanders are being shot by gang members just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Okay, sorry, that's enough of that. Now, the other thing I wanted to speak to you about is a West Point cadet named, what's his name, Rapone? Yeah, Spencer Rapone, or Rapone. This guy, most of you have seen this. This guy's picture is all over the internet now, in his West Point uniform. And inside his West Point hat, or cover as we would call it in the military, he has a big sign that says communism will win. Really? And now this guy has a Twitter handle called Commie Bebop. Commie Bebop. He has espoused for communism. He has supported Colin Kaepernick's dishonoring the flag and the memory of those who served under that flag. This guy is unbelievable. This is no joke, folks. This guy really exists. He really exists. Spencer Raponi, he really does exist. And by the way, he's in your army. He's in my army. And, oh, by the way, what's even worse is he's an officer. He's a second lieutenant. And now you want to hear the worst part of it all? He's commanding somebody's son out there in his infantry platoon. He's commanding somebody's son. Now, here's what I want you to ask about this. I think it's clear to all of us, particularly those of us that served in our military, that this guy should have never gotten commissioned, that this guy is a danger, that this guy is not upholding his oath. He should be court-martialed. He should be court-martialed for dereliction of duty, conduct unbecoming of an officer. This is terrible. But he's commanding somebody's son out there in his platoon. And the question we have to ask is, how on earth did this guy graduate from West Point? Now, I guess he just suddenly got radicalized between May of this year, when he graduated, and a week ago when these photographs came out. I guess all of a sudden he had just, that he just emerged. He just developed into this really bad guy that doesn't take his oath to the Constitution seriously. No, that didn't happen. He was like this at West Point, I can promise you. And the question is, how did they let him graduate? Where's the leadership of West Point? Where is the leadership? Where's the accountability? West Point and the leadership accountability, and I know the superintendent there, and he's a good man. He's a very good man. And I've known him for a long time. But I have to question, how on earth could this happen? How did the leadership in West Point let this guy get through and become an officer in the United States Army? In no way does this represent the values of the Army that I was in, and even West Point has said he doesn't represent our values. But I tell you what, one of the values here ought to be accountability. And this guy should never have been commissioned, should never been put in charge of the sons and daughters of America. And this guy needs to be court-martialed as soon as possible from my perspective, and put out of our Army and given plenty of time to think about it, sitting in a cold, dark cell at Leavenworth, Kansas. I've enjoyed being with you today. Thanks for joining me, and sorry about my rant, but both of these things just frustrate me beyond what I can tell you. God bless you.